Gene Tierney was the epitome of old Hollywood allure, a striking green-eyed brunette whose journey from high society to the silver screen left an indelible mark on cinema. Her beauty and talent made her a star, but her life was anything but charmed. While Marilyn Monroe might have captured the public's imagination, Gene Tierney's story offers a compelling mix of glamour, resilience, and heartbreak. She wasn't just Hollywood's get girl, she was a symbol of a bygone era's dazzling highs and devastating lows. Born Jean Eliza Tierney on November 19, 1920, in Brooklyn, New York, Jean's early life was steeped in privilege. Her father was a successful insurance broker, and her mother, a gym teacher, instilled discipline and grace in her daughter from a young age. But it wasn't the bustling streets of Brooklyn that shaped her formative years. The Tierneys soon moved to Westport, Connecticut, a wealthy enclave known for its exclusivity and refinement. Here, Jean's upbringing was anything but ordinary, steeped in the traditions of high society and poised for greatness. Jean's parents chose her name as a touching tribute to a beloved uncle who had passed away prematurely, a small but meaningful detail that hints at the strong family ties that shaped her early years. Growing up, Jean's adolescence read like a checklist of elite socialite accomplishments. She spent 2 years at an international school in Switzerland, perfecting her French and mingling with other young women of her social rank. The experience wasn't just about academics. It was about preparing for a world where poise and connections mattered just as much as intelligence. When she returned to the U.S., Jean continued her education at Miss Porter's School, an elite prep school that had once educated luminaries like Gloria Vanderbilt and Princess Anastasia of Greece and Denmark. Surrounded by the daughters of America's wealthiest and most influential families, Jean's path seemed destined for high society comfort. But she wanted more. Beneath the polished exterior was a young woman with dreams far larger than the quiet life expected of her. While many aspiring actors claw their way through auditions and rejection to catch a break, Jean's entry into Tinseltown seemed almost effortless. During a family trip to California, the Tierneys visited Warner Brothers Studios to see a relative working on set. Among the bustling backlot, Jean's beauty caught the eye of acclaimed director Anatole Litvak, who told the young teen she belonged on the silver screen. It was the kind of encounter most dream of, but for Jean, it was just the beginning. Warner Brothers wasted no time in trying to sign Tierney to a contract. At just 17 years old, she was already dazzling enough to make Hollywood executives clamor for her talent. But her parents, steeped in their upper-class ideals, weren't so easily convinced. To them, Hollywood wasn't a glamorous kingdom. It was a place where young women of their station went to squander potential. The Tierneys balked at the studio's offer, dismissing the salary as beneath their debutante daughter's prospects. Jean's parents had bigger plans for her, and acting wasn't part of the equation. True to their socialite expectations, the Tierneys ensured Jean followed tradition before venturing into the unknown. On September 24, 1938, Jean made her formal debut into society at the age of 17. This milestone, steeped in grandeur and ceremony, was her official introduction to the world of high society, marking her as ready for marriage and a life of prestige. For most debutantes, this would have been the start of a predictable path, but Jean wasn't interested in predictable. Even when starting from the bottom, she managed to capture attention in a way that set her apart. Her parents, ever the pragmatists, insisted she prove herself on stage before stepping in front of a camera. Enter Jean's debut role, a humble water carrier. While the part may not have been glamorous, Jean's beauty and poise turned heads regardless. One critic couldn't resist gushing, "Miss Tierney is certainly the most beautiful water carrier I've ever seen." Sure, it was a minor role, but Jean had already begun to leave her mark. Her stage performances continued to pave the way for bigger opportunities, and as fate would have it, lightning struck twice in her favor. During one of her Broadway performances, none other than Darryl F. Zanuck, the head of 20th Century Fox, happened to be in the audience. Impressed by her charisma, he leaned over to his assistant and instructed, "Take note of her name." But the universe wasn't done making magic that night. Later, at a swanky nightclub, Zanuck spotted a stunning woman on the dance floor and told his aide, "Forget the girl from the play. See if you can sign that one." Little did he know, the woman enchanting the room was none other than Gene Tierney herself. The coincidence was almost cinematic, and Zanuck quickly realized he was looking at a future star. Gene's path to Hollywood wasn't without its near misses, though. Early in her career, she almost signed with MGM, drawn by the promise of a role in the highly anticipated film National Velvet. But when the opportunity fell through, Gene pivoted, choosing instead to align her fate with 20th Century Fox. That decision would shape the trajectory of her career, launching her into the world of classic cinema and cementing her legacy as one of Hollywood's most captivating leading ladies. After their initial hesitation about her acting aspirations, Gene's parents quickly pivoted to full support once her career began to take off. But this wasn't your typical parental encouragement. Her father went so far as to establish a corporation named Beltier, designed solely to promote and manage his daughter's burgeoning career. It was a move that underscored the lengths her family was willing to go to ensure Gene's success. Let's just say, stars like Gene Tierney weren't exactly operating on the same playing field as the rest of us. Yet despite her privileged background and stunning looks, Gene struggled with self-esteem in ways that were both relatable and heartbreaking. After the screening of her first film, she was horrified by the sound of her voice, which she described as squeaky and likened to an angry Minnie Mouse. Determined to fix what she saw as a flaw, Gene turned to an unconventional and unhealthy solution. She took up smoking in an effort to lower her voice. What began as a coping mechanism turned into a lifelong habit, one that would come with its own consequences down the line. Gene's insecurities didn't stop at her voice. Early in her career, the pressures of Hollywood's relentless beauty standards came crashing down on her. On one film set, a cameraman brazenly told her she needed to lose weight, a comment that hit her hard. Like many young actresses eager to prove themselves, Gene took the criticism to heart. She reached out to Harper's Bazaar for diet advice, and when they replied with a strict regimen, she stuck to it for the next 25 years. Gene Tierney was a woman of contradictions, a larger-than-life Hollywood star who was also surprisingly grounded in certain ways. Standing at 5 feet 7 inches tall, she had a presence that was just enough to command attention without towering over the screen. In an industry where everything had to be extraordinary, her height offered a rare touch of relatability. But that was likely the only thing average about Gene. What truly set her apart was her almost chameleonic ability to transform on screen. Gene was a master of reinvention, capable of adopting any look to suit the role. With the right hair, makeup, and costume, she could shift seamlessly from ingenue to femme fatale, from radiant socialite to hauntingly mysterious figure. I always had several different looks, a quality that proved useful in my career, she once said, summing up her versatility with characteristic elegance. This adaptability wasn't just a skill, it was her superpower, one that ensured her longevity in a cutthroat industry. Yet even with her beauty and talent, Gene wasn't immune to insecurities. Among her biggest concerns were her teeth, which she believed protruded too much. In an attempt to downplay this perceived flaw, she developed subtle tricks, like shaping her lipstick to minimize the appearance of her teeth, and even speaking out of the side of her mouth to draw attention away from them. In a candid 1948 interview, she admitted, "I'd talk out of the side of my mouth in order not to show my teeth." But Fox Studios, known for its obsession with perfection, didn't see her teeth as a flaw at all. They insisted Gene leave them untouched, recognizing that her distinctive smile was part of her charm. In a world that demanded cookie-cutter beauty, Gene's uniqueness was a breath of fresh air, and it's one of the reasons her legacy endures. Early in her acting career, Gene caught the attention of Howard Hughes, the eccentric billionaire whose wealth and influence made him one of the most sought-after men in Hollywood. But where others might have been dazzled by his fortune, Gene was unimpressed. Raised in privilege herself, she was no stranger to luxury, and Hughes's attempts to woo her fell flat. She turned him down without hesitation. Yet, in a surprising twist, the two formed a lifelong friendship built on mutual respect, proving that not every Hollywood story ends in scandal. While Howard Hughes couldn't win her heart, it was stolen soon after by another man, Russian-Italian fashion designer Oleg Cassini. With his impeccable style and undeniable charm, Cassini swept Gene off her feet. She was captivated, but her family was far less enchanted. They saw Cassini as an unsuitable match for their well-bred daughter, and their disapproval was fierce. Gene was faced with an impossible choice: follow her heart or bow to her family's expectations. In June 1941, she made her decision, risking their wrath by eloping with Cassini. The move shocked her family, but it marked Gene as a woman unafraid to take risks for love. The couple's marriage brought moments of happiness and the birth of two daughters, Antoinette Daria and Christina. Yet, like many Hollywood unions, theirs was far from perfect. Beneath the glamour and shared passion lay tensions and challenges that would eventually lead to heartbreak. Gene's life was never destined for a quiet, happily ever after, but her choices, bold, daring, and often unconventional, made her story one of the most captivating of Hollywood's golden age. One of the most heartbreaking chapters began in the early 1940s when Gene was pregnant with her first daughter, Daria. At the time, she was volunteering at the Hollywood Canteen, a popular venue where stars mingled with servicemen to boost morale during the World War II. It was a noble cause, but one fateful encounter would change her life forever. One evening, an adoring fan approached Gene, eager to meet her, despite being under quarantine for rubella. Unbeknownst to Gene, this seemingly innocent interaction would have devastating consequences. She contracted the illness and later passed it on to her unborn child. When Daria was born, it was with severe complications. She was deaf, partially blind, and mentally disabled. The realization that a single moment had caused such a lifetime of challenges for her daughter haunted Gene for the rest of her life. Amid this heartache, Gene found a steadfast ally in an unexpected place. Howard Hughes, her longtime friend, stepped up in a way few others had. Despite his reputation as a brash and eccentric billionaire, Hughes demonstrated remarkable compassion, covering all of Daria's medical expenses and ensuring she had access to the best care available at the time. His generosity provided Gene with some relief during an otherwise unbearable period, solidifying their unusual but enduring friendship. However, even in her gratitude, Gene's sharp wit didn't falter when it came to Hughes. Known for his obsession with machinery, planes in particular, Hughes often seemed more enamored with his inventions than with people. Reflecting on their bond, Gene once quipped, "I don't think Howard could love anything that didn't have a motor in it." It was a rare glimpse into the humor and candor that defined their relationship, proving that even in the darkest times, Gene never lost her voice. Gene Tierney's Hollywood career wasn't all glitz and glamour. It was also a gauntlet of high-pressure productions, demanding directors, and moments that tested her resilience. One of her first major starring roles was in Ernst Lubitsch's Heaven Can Wait, a comedic film that should have been a delightful stepping stone in her career. Instead, it turned into a trial by fire. Lubitsch was infamous for his tyrannical directing style, and he didn't hold back with Gene. He frequently screamed at her on set, leaving the young actress on the verge of tears. But Gene wasn't one to back down. After enduring enough of his yelling, she finally stood up for herself. "If you keep shouting, I'll leave," she told him, her voice steady despite her frustration. Lubitsch's response was as shocking as it was dismissive. "I'm paid to shout at you." But Gene, always quick-witted, fired back, "And I'm paid to take it, but not enough." The tension hung in the air until, unexpectedly, Lubitsch burst into laughter. From that moment on, the two developed a mutual respect, and Gene proved she could hold her own, even against one of Hollywood's most formidable figures. Her ability to weather such challenges came in handy during her breakout role as the enigmatic femme fatale in Otto Preminger's Laura. The 1944 film is now considered a masterpiece, but its production was anything but smooth. Originally helmed by Ruben Mamoulian, the movie faced creative clashes and constant delays. Mamoulian's hands-off approach left Gene, still relatively inexperienced, to navigate the complexities of her role with little guidance. When Preminger took over as director, the production found its footing, and Gene's performance became iconic. Her portrayal of Laura cemented her status as one of Hollywood's brightest stars, even as the road to success was fraught with obstacles. Gene's star continued to rise, and in 1945 she delivered what many consider her most compelling performance in Leave Her to Heaven. Playing Ellen Brent, a deeply manipulative and dangerously obsessive character, Gene showcased her ability to command the screen with both charm and menace. The role earned her an Academy Award nomination for Best Actress in 1946, solidifying her place among Hollywood's elite. At the height of her career, she earned the nickname the Get Girl, a clever nod to her initials, GET, and her uncanny ability to achieve whatever she set her mind to. Whether it was commanding the screen with her magnetic presence or navigating the intricate world of Hollywood with grace, Gene always seemed to get exactly what she wanted. Her stunning beauty didn't go unnoticed either. Fox studio head Daryl Zanuck famously called her the most beautiful woman in movie history. It wasn't hyperbole. Gene's ethereal looks, paired with her undeniable talent, made her an icon of the silver screen. She possessed a rare combination of elegance and charisma that captivated both audiences and her peers, solidifying her place as one of Hollywood's most unforgettable stars. But Gene's life wasn't confined to the glamour of film sets and glowing reviews. In 1946, her personal life took a dramatic turn when she and her husband, fashion designer Oleg Cassini, separated. While the split marked the end of their tumultuous marriage, it didn't slow Gene down. Instead, the Hollywood beauty stepped into a new chapter with her characteristic poise and confidence. During this time, she caught the attention of some of the most eligible men of her era. Among her rumored romances were actor Kirk Douglas and a young John F. Kennedy, then a rising political star. Their romance was the stuff of tabloids, full of passion and promise, at least for Gene. She was deeply devoted to the charismatic young politician, but Kennedy had other priorities. One day, he delivered a devastating blow, telling her he had grand political ambitions and could never marry her. For Gene, it was the ultimate betrayal. Heartbroken but determined to preserve her dignity, she ended the affair, proving once again that she was a woman who knew when to walk away. But if Gene's relationship with Kennedy was headline-grabbing, Her whirlwind romance with Prince Ali Khan in the 1950s was nothing short of royal intrigue. Ali, the dashing ex-husband of screen siren Rita Hayworth, swept Gene off her feet. Their chemistry was undeniable, and the pair even discussed marriage. Yet, like a Shakespearean tragedy, their love was thwarted by forces beyond their control. Ali's father, Aga Khan III, disapproved of the match, and Gene was forced to leave the glamorous world of European royalty behind, returning to Hollywood with a broken heart and empty hands. It was another chapter in a life filled with both dazzling highs and crushing lows. Behind her poised exterior, Gene carried a heavy burden. She battled for years with manic depression, a struggle made worse by the turbulence of her personal life. As her mental health declined, so did her ability to work. Film sets became overwhelming, and Gene found it harder and harder to focus. This all came to a head during the production of Mogambo, where she was forced to step away from her role. To add insult to injury, Grace Kelly replaced her and went on to win a Golden Globe for the performance. By the late 1950s, Gene Tierney's life was a far cry from her days as one of Hollywood's most dazzling stars. Struggling with the weight of her depression, she decided to step away from the spotlight and try to rejoin society in a quieter, more grounded way. She even took a job as a sales clerk, hoping the simplicity of the work might provide some much-needed normalcy. But in a cruel twist, her famously beautiful face betrayed her. A customer recognized her, and soon the media descended, churning out sensational headlines about the once glamorous starlet's fall from grace. Gene admitted herself to a series of mental institutions, seeking help in an era when mental health treatments were often more damaging than healing. Among the most harrowing of these were the shock therapy procedures she endured, treatments that left her feeling dehumanized and powerless. Her aversion to the brutal methods became so intense that she once attempted to escape from the asylum. Though she was quickly caught and returned, her desperation underscored the cruelty of the treatment systems of the time. Amidst these dark moments, Gene found a steadfast ally in screen legend Humphrey Bogart. Known for his gruff on-screen persona, Bogart showed a softer, deeply empathetic side when working with Gene. His compassion stemmed from personal experience. His own sister had struggled with mental instability, giving him a unique understanding of what Gene was going through. Whenever she faltered on set, losing focus or forgetting her lines, Bogart would step in with kindness and patience. He encouraged her to seek professional help and never wavered in his support, proving that even in Hollywood's cutthroat environment, genuine friendships could thrive. But Gene's internal battles reached a terrifying peak on Christmas Day in 1957. That morning, she stepped onto the roof of her mother's Manhattan apartment and gazed down at the 14-story drop, contemplating ending her life. The holiday cheer that surrounded her contrasted sharply with the turmoil within. Her family, realizing the severity of the situation, called the police. For 20 tense minutes, they pleaded with her to step back inside. Thankfully, Gene eventually retreated from the edge, narrowly avoiding a tragic end. In 1958, she met W. Howard Lee, a wealthy Texas oil baron who had recently gone through a high-profile divorce from actress and inventor Hedy Lamarr. For Gene, who had endured so much turmoil, Lee offered stability and understanding. Their connection was instant and enduring. The two married and settled into a quiet, secluded life, far removed from the glitz of Hollywood. It was a chapter of peace that Gene desperately needed, and their partnership lasted until Lee's death in 1981. But even in the sanctuary of her new life, heartbreak found Gene once again. In 1960, while planning a comeback with the film Return to Peyton Place, she discovered she was pregnant, a joyous moment that brought hope back into her life. Tragically, her happiness was short-lived. Gene suffered a miscarriage, a devastating loss that left her unable to continue with the project. Overwhelmed with grief, she retreated from public life once more, prioritizing her emotional recovery over her career. By the 1960s, Gene Tierney had weathered more than her fair share of life's storms, and she decided to make one last attempt at a Hollywood comeback. While her return brought some memorable moments, including her role as Jane Barton in The Pleasure Seekers, the effort was fraught with challenges. Her lingering anxieties and struggles with mental health made it difficult to recapture the magic of her earlier career. By 1969, Gene quietly stepped away from acting, choosing to prioritize her well-being over the relentless pressures of the industry. But even as Gene distanced herself from the silver screen, her life outside of Hollywood continued to intrigue. In the 1960 presidential election, Gene's choice of candidate raised eyebrows. Despite her past romance with John F. Kennedy, she cast her vote for his opponent, Richard Nixon. Gene, a staunch Republican, seemed to let her political convictions outweigh any lingering personal ties. For Gene, crossing the aisle wasn't just a political stance. It was a reflection of how she had moved on from her connection with the young senator who had once broken her heart. Yet Gene was never one to hold grudges, and her actions after Kennedy's victory proved it. When JFK was elected president, she sent him a handwritten note of congratulations. It was a gesture of class and maturity, showing that, despite their tumultuous history, Gene respected his achievements. Her note, both gracious and sincere, revealed the resilience of a woman who had endured heartbreak and hardship, but refused to let bitterness define her. Agatha Christie drew directly from the heartbreaking story of Tierney's firstborn daughter, Daria. For the plot of her novel, the mirror cracked from side to side. In the book, a glamorous actress becomes the central figure in a devastating tale of guilt and loss mirroring Gene's real-life struggles. It was a poignant testament to the way Gene's life, both on and off the screen, left an indelible mark on the cultural imagination. Her legacy hasn't just endured, it's been celebrated by some of cinema's greatest minds. Martin Scorsese, a director renowned for his deep appreciation of classic film, has cited Tierney's Leave Her to Heaven as one of his all-time favorite movies. In his eyes, the film's haunting beauty owes much to Tierney's remarkable performance. Scorsese has also called her one of the most underrated actresses of her era, a sentiment shared by many who have rediscovered her work and recognized the depth she brought to her roles. But like all stars, Gene's time eventually came to an end. On November 6, 1991, just shy of her 71st birthday, she passed away in Houston, Texas, from emphysema, a tragic consequence of her decades-long smoking habit. Her death marked the close of an era, but her influence remains very much alive. Gene Tierney's life was a poignant blend of glamour and hardship, a testament to her resilience and determination to carve out a legacy in the face of personal challenges. Her story reminds us that even the brightest stars carry shadows. Thank you for joining us on this journey through her remarkable life. If you enjoyed this video, please like, comment, and subscribe for more stories about the legends of Hollywood. Until next time, take care and stay inspired.